starting in 5 seconds. Mr. Vice Chairman, I would now like to make a few observations on the Ministry of Education. Education is basic to any national regeneration. It is true that it does not bring any return as our other projects do, as for instance the steel projects or the irrigation projects do, but this is the investment that is designed to help building up of the human material. It is agreed that education has expanded after independence and during the plan periods, but it is a matter for concern that the content of education has not been equal to our expectations. Even today, we are engaged in experimenting with all types of education from the basic stage up to the university level. It is not clear, I presume, that the basic pattern of education of which so much was said and written is accepted as a success even today. Where do we stand with regard to the basic pattern? It seems to be the position that all arguments are in favor of that type of education, but all proof is against the success of such a type of education. Where does the government stand with regard to this type of education? We swore by the basic type of education because it was discovered by the father of the nation. But if it has been a failure, why should not the government say that that is the position? Then again, take secondary education and also collegiate education. 3 years ago, it was said that all universities should have 3-year degree courses, and some universities which were reluctant to accept this reform were more or less compelled to do so, and they accepted it. Now certain universities find that this scheme is not working satisfactorily, and they feel that they should have a 2-year course in the college before students could enter the degree course. I mention this to show that this eternal tinkering with education should stop, and it should not go on like this. This uncertainty is not only with regard to the main objective of education, the main structure of education from the primary to the collegiate level, but also with regard to the courses of studies and also with regard to the language or medium of instruction. Mr. Chairman, up to the secondary stage, it has been accepted that the medium of instruction should be the regional language. The National Integration Council, however, stated that if universities are to exchange professors, if they have to develop freely, then there should be the common medium of instruction, namely English and Hindi. Now, at the latest National Integration Council meeting, we are told that the medium of instruction in the colleges should also be the religion language ultimately, and if that comes to pass, I ask, how will national integration be achieved? It is permissible to envisage a stage if the scheme of the National Integration Council is implemented where different universities will have different media of instruction, and the men that will be drawn from these universities will have to man the judiciary of the land and the All India services, but they will not be able to serve in a state other than the one in which they were educated. How can integration be achieved? We are working at cross purposes. It is time that a high power body was appointed to hammer out a national scheme of education having integration as the basic aim and to implement it systematically. The present method of meddling at every stage of education, the present climate in which we are not clear about the medium of instruction at different stages, is causing concern to the parents, to the pupils, and weakening the country in the process. This is a major problem as the stage of the development of the country. Then, Mr. Vice Chairman, I would pass on to the Ministry of Transport and Communications. According to this ministry, we are to build a system of national highways, provincial or state highways, an integrated system of communications from the village upwards, but the central government is concerned with the construction of national highways. It is good to have a fine system of national highways. It also serves as a physical link for integrating the nation. It is good, but this planning of construction of national highways without regard to the development of railways and the development of industries in the regions in which the highways are proposed to be constructed will be something beyond our means at the present moment. Assuming that we have a network of national highways, are they to be put to immediate use? Are they good investments? Unless you have industries, small, big, or medium, coming along the highways, unless they assure you a fair return for the investment, it is not desirable to have a system of highways for the sake of mere transport of passengers. In other words, we should have a scheme of priorities for the national highways so that they can be looked after. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. May I, Madam, draw the attention of the Honorable Minister to an important committee set up by the Government of India in 1958 under the chairmanship of Mr. Nagy, who was asked to inquire into the various problems of railway road coordination. Their preliminary report appeared some time ago, and it was even circulated to all the state governments for their opinion. But to my regret, I have to say that the work of this committee has been very much hindered as a result of the indifference and may I say careless negligence on the part of the state governments as well as on the part of the ministry concerned in taking up this question and in pursuing it so that we may be able to have a clear and comprehensive picture of the transport situation in the country. Now, railway transport, like any other mode of transport, is suffering and under a major handicap. The handicap being that we do not know, nor does the railway ministry know what the exact quantum of transport requirement in the country is and what the rising demand is which the railways are expected to cater to in future. Certain targets which have been worked out in the third plan have been given to us. In the second plan, we were given certain targets, but unfortunately, madam, may I point out that all our exaggerations throughout we have seen that we have not been able to have a well coordinated and progressive development of the transport system and in particular the railway system in the country. So anything we suggest today will have that kind of air of unreality without knowing fully or adequately what exactly the transport needs in the country are. We are not in a position to discuss or dilate upon the problems of the railways or the transport itself. Madam, last year when I was speaking on the budget, I pointed out that there had been planning of some sort, but within this planning there had not been sufficient planning in the functioning of the administration. There has not been planning in carrying out the various phases of the program enunciated in the plan or in the budget. Frequently, we come across the statement by the Honorable Minister that the railways have not been able to fulfill certain things. I went through the pages of the budget papers and also the speech of the minister. I came across this significant expression: wherever there are failures or shortfalls in performance, we are told that these are mainly due to unpredictable factors or factors beyond control. I do not think that some of the factors which my honorable friend would like us to believe that they are unpredictable or uncontrollable cannot anticipated. For instance, I may draw the attention of the honorable minister to one important fact, that is, we have been supplying since some time past empty haulage for a long distance to quarries, to steel factories and so on. We are told that this empty haulage is unavoidable, that we have to find empty wagons to steel factories and quarries to carry raw material or perhaps coal and the like. So for a long distance we find wagons going empty, but if there had been a research cell, an organization in the ministry to find out ways and means of utilizing these wagons fruitfully by avoiding bottlenecks in between. We could have solved the transport difficulty to a certain extent. I do not want to be told by the minister that this is a physical impossibility. Even in the advanced countries of the world, every movement of wagon, coach, and engine is planned before it is put into operation. It is unfortunate and tragic that in this country, after a decade of planning, we have not been able to think in terms of planning while executing the works. Now, in regard to some of the general problems of the railways, I would say first of all that the rise in demand is so great that we have to be prepared to provide not only adequate but also effective transport facilities to our people. I need not tell the House that the railway transport system in general is greatly dependent or interdependent on the general economy of the country. But during the last one decade, there has been one significant factor that has to be appreciated, that is the demand for transport is increasing at a faster rate than the rise in the national income or the rise in the production in any sector or in any industry. This is a factor that has not been adequately appreciated. Even if it has been adequately appreciated, no attempt, no sincere effort has yet been made to carry out the fulfillment of the needs of all the sectors of our economy. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Mr. Vice Chairman, sir, I welcome the budget proposals for the year 2012-13, which are all comprehensive and which embrace most of the development plans that we have envisaged for the establishment of a socialistic society in this country. In spite of the taxation and the introduction of fresh duties, we find that the finance minister has succeeded in disturbing only a microscopic section of the people of this country to extract sufficient funds for our schemes. The finance minister has also succeeded in finding funds for almost all the development plans of this country, which will add to our good. While we discuss the general aspects of the budget, we will have to consider the activities of most of the sections that are now covered in the budget. Even though the provisions are there, I think, sir, the expenditure on some of the activities envisaged in this budget should be subjected to a thorough scrutiny. In this respect, sir, I wish to bring to the notice of this House the special feature of the educational system of this country. Some of the members have mentioned something about the educational system of this country, have remarked that the allocation of funds is not adequate and that the provision should be revised according to the needs of this country. As the honorable member was speaking in Hindi, I did not thoroughly understand what he meant, but still, sir, the educational system has created a sort of confusion in our country over the last 15 years, and every now and then we had been changing the schemes and plans for educating our children, and various states have adopted different schemes which have actually created a feeling of disintegration among the people of this country. In some of the states, they have switched on to the regional language as the medium of instruction, and in some states, they think that English should be retained as a medium of instruction. But the people believe that the medium of instruction should be Hindi, that is the national language of our country. But, sir, the time is not yet ripe for us to switch on to Hindi. So, as and when we find it feasible, we may switch on to our national language, but till that time, we will keep English as the medium of instruction in all educational institutions. Sir, the other day, the University Grants Commission submitted a report wherein they have mentioned that English should be the medium of instruction at least in the colleges. Sir, it is my opinion that English should be retained in this country for years to come till we find that we could translate all the essential books on science and technology, etc., into Hindi, which should be able to help us in educating our boys, especially in the technical institutions, through Hindi as the medium. Here, sir, some of the members have pointed out with regard to the introduction of different type of education in the same state or in various parts of this country. We find that a majority of the children of our country are educated in the basic system, which brings out, as far as I know, second class citizens in this country who are to be governed by the boys who are sent to the public schools. Most of the children of the haves are sent to the public schools and they are imparted expert training, and when they come out they are definitely superior to those boys who undergo this basic system of education. If this basic education is considered to be the best for the development of our country in the socialistic way, we will have somehow or other to find some better means of imparting education whereby they will be able to compete with the students who are now undergoing training in the public schools. Unless we do it, we will be creating, as I previously mentioned, a second class of citizens in this country. I hope the authorities who are concerned with the planning of education in this country will review their schemes according to the suggestions that I have put forth now. In the same way, sir, our country is mainly depending on our agriculture and industries for the development of our economy. But the agriculturists are an ignorant section of our people who do not find, in spite of the development in that sector of our economy of high production, a better income as the industrial section is having in this country. The industrial section is fast improving and their standard of living has gone high. At the same time, in spite of the better production in the agriculture section, the agrarian population has not come at par with the industrial section of this country. In the same way, industrial laborers are organized. Most of them are given so many benefits and advantages according to the legislation that is passed for the betterment of industrial laborers of this country. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Madam Deputy Chairman, I rise to participate in this discussion not with a view to ventilate particular grievances or to secure concessions and relief in the taxation measures. I am one of those who believe that there is no justification for additional taxation unless the conditions laid down by the Taxation Inquiry Commission are complied with. It was a commission presided over by no less a person than Dr. John Mathai, one of our illustrious finance ministers, and it laid down that there was no justification for any additional taxation unless we complied with two or three conditions. One condition was that whatever tax was realized was being properly spent, that there was no wastage or superfluous expenditure being incurred. The Commission had pointed out that out of every rupee that was being raised by the government, 60 paisa were being spent on administration and about 20 paisa were being spent on social services, including education, etc., and the balance for other things. Another was that whatever tax was being imposed should be realized before we brought out measures for fresh taxation. They also had suggested that there was sufficient room for economy in all the ministers and departments, and effective steps should be taken forthwith to enforce the maximum possible economy in government expenditure. Now we have before us this audit report for 2011-12, which was presented to the Lok Sabha on the 6th June and which came to my hands last night, and I have not been able to study it. I find that during the last 5 years we have imposed additional taxation, and at the same time our revenue expenditure has gone up by about rupees 42 crores. So on the one hand we say that we are raising this money, these taxes, for the implementation of the plan, and for that reason every chief minister and ministers go about saying that we want money for the implementation of the plan. But what are the facts? We find that the money that has been raised is being used for administrative purposes. So it is not correct to say that. On the other hand, it is not proper because you must know that no plan, however well balanced and well thought out it may be, can be implemented in a democratic setup unless you can enthuse the people. We have been depending either on foreign aid or on indirect taxation or deficit financing, and more than once I have pointed out that these measures will not help to enthuse the people, and unless the people are enthused, we will not have any successful results so far as planning is concerned. Now it is necessary, it is time that we should take stock of the situation, for we have had 54 years of freedom and 52 years of democratic rule and of planned economy. What are the results? I am not one of those who minimize our achievements. We have had some achievements which are remarkable, of which we can be proud. We have had 3 general elections and we can be proud of all this. but it is equally true that the expectations of the people remain mostly unfulfilled, they remain unrealized. What are the expectations of the people? They wanted an adequate supply of drinking water. They wanted a little more wholesome food in their stomachs, a little more cloth on their bodies, a stronger roof over their heads, freedom from the clutches of the corrupt officials and the grabbing intermediaries, and speedier justice. What was what have we done? Have we been able to satisfy those expectations? I can say no. Even in the 11th 5-year plan, we find that all the villages have not been provided with adequate supply of drinking water. And as for food, only the other day the finance minister himself admitted in the other house that there was adulteration of foodstuffs all round. Not all that a former health minister admitted in this house that it was difficult to get any article of food unadulterated. Then what is the use of talking about pure food articles and of other health facilities when the people are getting articles which are as good as poison? They are injurious to health. The other day, the finance minister is reported to have said that the taxation proposals did not affect the common man because he needed only coarse cloth and ordinary food. During the last 5 years, we have raised rupees 424 crores more, including the taxation measures. This year, the increase in revenue will be about 75%. Since 2006, we have raised additional taxation to the tune of 75%, and during the 5 years preceding this year, the revenue expenditure has gone up by 85%. I would like to know how much of this amount has gone towards developmental expenditure and towards social services. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. In presenting this report, my first duty would be to thank the DEBAR Commission for preparing this valuable document. The Commission have gone deep into the various aspects of this problem and have produced an important and valuable document. The Commission had to tour a lot and they had to put in very hard work. I should like to convey my thanks and congratulations to the chairman of the commission, Shri Debar, and also to his other colleagues for this useful contribution. As the House is aware, the problem of the scheduled tribes has been constantly engaging the attention of the government since the constitution was framed and adopted. Still, the government were not satisfied with the actual progress made. It was in that context that the government appointed two committees before the Debar Commission was appointed. The first was the Alvin Committee, which specially dealt with the problem of the tribal blocks. The second committee was appointed on the suggestion of the Estimates Committee to study the problem of the backward communities specially. On the top of that, in pursuance of Article 339 of the Constitution, the government appointed the Debar Commission, and now it is for the House to give its opinion on the recommendations made by the Commission. Our desire is that as soon as the Parliament, this House as well as the other House, has discussed this report and expressed its views, we will go ahead with the recommendations made, and we will certainly like that they are implemented as early as possible. I do not want to enter into generalities, but it must be said that our country is vast and our problems are also immense. Generally, we are a very poor country, and it is true that during the British days we did not actually realize what poverty meant. People suffered without much protest, but now, when the country is trying to go ahead with economic development, it is but natural that every section of our community should like to progress simultaneously. I think if we are frank, we should admit that there are certain weaker sections of our community in the country who have not made as much advance and progress as others have done. It is therefore become very important that we should lay special emphasis on the development of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes. It is necessary, therefore, that we should carefully consider the various recommendations made and see what we can do to achieve a certain target within a prescribed period. The scheduled tribes have been living in isolated places, far off places, not connected with roads. They do not have any amenities of life, neither medical aid nor even proper educational facilities. We have to bring them out of that situation, and we must try to integrate those people with other sections of our countrymen. It is far from my mind to suggest that we should impose anything on them, whether our customs or our culture, though the culture is more or less common throughout the country, but every community has its own conventions and customs. Therefore, when I say that there should be complete integration, I do not mean to suggest that there should be imposition of anything on the tribal communities as such. Still, it is essential that integration will only be possible if their standards are raised, if they are more or less brought to the same level where we or the other people are who are not so isolated. So we have to bring these people to that level, and we can do that not by implementing certain schemes only, but by bringing about a radical change in our outlook and approach. There may be different communities and different religions in our country, but India had its own unique tradition in the past which we have to carry on and maintain even now. In fact, our philosophic base has been unity in diversity, and in it is our good fortune that when we are free, when we have become independent, various communities and religions exist in our country, and it should be our effort to bring about complete unity and solidarity amongst ourselves, even if our religions are different or we differ in our customs, rights, etc. So, I think that it is a challenge to all of us, and I have no doubt that we will be able to meet this challenge. I do not want to take more time of the house. As I said in the beginning, I do not want to enter into generalities. So far as the recommendations of the Commission are concerned, they can broadly be divided into two categories. There are recommendations which are to be dealt with or which directly concern the Home Ministry and some other ministries of the Government of India. There are other recommendations which mainly concern the state governments. In fact, it is the state governments which have really to execute and implement the programs. Stop. Starting in 5 seconds. Sir, the resolution itself is very badly drafted, but it draws attention to one of the most pressing problems of this country. Full employment is an objective of every kind of economy in this world, whether capitalist, socialist, communist, or mixed economy. Therefore, it is also one of our objectives. But then we are not able to find out whether we are proceeding on the road of greater employment or greater unemployment. I am afraid that thinking on this matter is today so confused and contradictory that unless we can have a rational comprehension of the whole problem, we are not likely to make any headway. Therefore, I want to define how we should approach this problem. First of all, this is not a single problem but two different and distinct problems. We should not confuse total unemployment with partial employment or underemployment. These are two different things that have to be dealt with in entirely different fashions, but unfortunately, when we speak of 15 or 19 million unemployed, nobody knows how many of these are really totally unemployed and how many are suffering from seasonal or partial unemployment. Total unemployment is an urban phenomenon. It is only in cities and towns. You have people who have to work whatsoever. In the rural areas, it is always a case of partial unemployment or seasonal unemployment. Therefore, the first thing to be done in order to solve this is we must devise a machinery to ascertain how many are totally unemployed and how many are underemployed. So, I do suggest that every municipality in this country should maintain a register of the unemployed. Of course, we have now the labor exchanges. Unfortunately, they are not to be found everywhere, and all unemployed do not register themselves there. Therefore, I just suggested that in every municipality there should be an unemployment register and propaganda should be done among the unemployed that they should first register themselves in the municipal register. Similarly, I would suggest that in every village panchayat there should be a register where people will register themselves for underemployment, because during the harvest season there is actual shortage of labor in the villages rather than the reverse. Therefore, there would have to be different kinds of registers to show in what seasons you want to give employment and to devise suitable employment. Then, secondly, we have to realize that so far as total unemployment is concerned, the only way is to develop industries and social services. The word employment is only used very loosely in the amber charkha. If a man gets 40 or 60 rupees, it is called employment. That will not do. We must define employment as giving him work which will give him living wages. Any work which does not give living wages should not be called employment. If we have to give living wages, the only way of doing it for the totally unemployed is to develop our industries and expand our social services. So far as social services are concerned, there is enormous scope for expansion. Why should you not in this country have one teacher for every 20 children? Why should we have one teacher for 40 children? Immediately, we can increase the strength of teachers by lakhs, but the real difficulty is we have to pay them, and therefore we are now caught in a dilemma. Without increase of wealth, we cannot increase the social services. Without increasing the social services, we cannot give sufficient and adequate employment for the totally unemployed in the towns. Therefore, the development of the industries is essential. Without the development of industries and social services, the problem of total unemployment, the planning commission, or anybody, of course, some kind of temporary employment can be devised by such ways as asking the men to go and dig the high level and make it low level and give them some temporary wages, but that will be only waste of scarce resources, and we shall not be solving the problem of unemployment. Therefore, a faster development of industry, and out of the surplus proceeds of the industry, a quicker development of the social service is the only possible solution for the total unemployment. For partial unemployment or underemployment in the villages, it has to be solved in a different way. Intensification of agriculture is bound to increase employment. For instance, wherever there is a single crop, if we can introduce double crop, the total amount of labor required will be doubled. Therefore, conversion of single croplands into double croplands and providing irrigation and other facilities for them is one of the certain methods of solving this underemployment. Again, many traditional services such as the annual repair of irrigation tanks, canals, etc. have lapsed. We must resume them. I am sure they will give at least an average of 20 underemployed workers in the villages, further lessening the employment problems in the country. Stop.